Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about coronavirus and its link to diet and or 5G, with emphasis on diet. For reference, you could see my other video titled Coronavirus or 5G Illness, where I focus on 5G, but this one I'm going to do both with emphasis on diet. Alright, I'm going to be taking most of this information from a book that my dad wrote and I ended up co-authoring when he worked on it for years, and then he unfortunately died right before it was published, so I was left in charge. Where the end chapter, he's mentioning a lot about diet as it relates to the Bible, and how that the Bible, which gives us instructions on what to eat and what not to eat, he shows where this one scientist actually proves that everything the Bible said is actually correct, which we'll get to. This is the book. It's available on Amazon, actually, titled "You Can't Spell Jesus in Hebrew and Other Hidden Truths About Christianity." James Dobbs Jr. and Laura Dobbs Pemberton, myself, which I co-authored. If you look inside just briefly, my dad was actually pretty brilliant, retired engineer, and he had grown up with a Christian church, but later in life he changed and to the Jewish, or more correctly, Yehudi faith. He came up with a very interesting theory, a valid theory, that they incorrectly, on purpose, going back to the Catholic Church, transliterated the Bible incorrectly, changing all the J's to Y's. Why? To hide the identity of the people in the Bible, which were Jewish, because of their hatred for them. And in a lot of this, it's just pure unadulterated history of Hitler and things that were done to the Jews during Nazi Germany, which I was never taught in school. On and on, and then he goes on, and he had added a chapter on the ill treatment of blacks in America, since he grew up with a black maid, and then the ill treatment of Native Americans, which is a chapter that I added on to, since I'm part Native American. My mom was. I start out with a chapter on Wounded Knee 1 and 2, Pine Ridge Reservation, the saga of Leonard Peltier, who's a political prisoner. If anybody doesn't know that case, please go to www.whoisleonardpeltier.info. The poor man's been there his whole life for something he didn't do. I mentioned his illegal extradition from Canada, Keystone Pipeline, Indian boarding schools and tribunals, genocide against Native Americans by abducting their children through defects, and then another chapter added on what most people don't know about Homeland Security. For instance, how they now own the weather and, do things like manipulate and increase the speed of hurricanes, create hurricanes, really sick stuff. And then we get down Shabbat and then the diet. Is it a sin to eat food that Yahweh declares unclean? Correct name, Yahweh, not God. But if you want to know more, you can read the book on that. My dad was he held high to his convictions. Here he was at an abortion protest. And that on here's, there we are, my mom and dad. And then my dad worked at Tablin Air Force Base. And here's the back photo, the back of the book. My dad on his motorcycle and an Israeli flag. And there we'll get started. Like I said, I'm taking most of this information which my dad researched. So Question. Let's start with the question. Is it a sin to eat pig meat, ham, pork chops, pork roast, pork sausage, pork hot dogs, pork bacon, pork bologna, pork ribs, pig fat, pig intestines, chitterlings, pig brains, pickled pig feet, pepperoni, pig skins, rare cooked meat, raw meat, blood pudding, horse meat, camel meat, dog meat, cat, bear, rat, squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, carrion hawks, crow, blackbird pie, vultures, roadkill, catfish, sharks, oysters, shrimp, lobsters, clams, scallops, alligators, snakes, lizards, chocolate covered ants, roaches, etc. The answer is yes. It is a sin according to Yahweh, the creator of the universe. What I'm going to do is first we're going to go over what the Bible says, and then I'm going to get to the really interesting science, how science backs this up. So, first off, let's, we can play this video along with it here. Proof 2. Now this goes out to all you, little owlers, Bohemian Grove people. They're in your little sacrifices and drinking blood. You might want to tune in here. Proof 2, and from Vayikra 3:17. It is to be a permanent regulation for you through all your generations, wherever you live, that you will eat neither fat nor blood. Proof 4. Oops. Proof 4. Vayikra 17:10-14. When someone from the community of Israel or one of the foreigners living with you eats any kind of blood, I will set myself against that person who eats blood and cut him off from his people. For the life of a creature is in the blood, and I have given it to you on the altar to make abatement for yourselves. For it is the blood that makes atonement because of the life. This is why I told you, people of Israel, none of you is to eat blood, nor is any foreigner living with you to eat blood. Oh, I think I would take that pretty seriously. So next, we will just go into basically, just briefly on the kinds of food that the Bible declares is okay and not okay to eat. So let's go over here. This is a good article here by Dr. Jockers, who said it pretty much the same type of stuff and why he no longer eats pig meat. The Hebrews are warned about pig. Here we go. This is just a basic while I go over this is also a pretty good summary here from Leviticus 2, Deuteronomy 14. The land. Okay. You may eat among all the land animals, any that has a separate hoof, which is completely divided and chews the cud. These animals you may eat, but you are not to eat those that only chew the cud or only have a separate hoof. For example, the camel. Of the things that live in the water, you may eat these. Anything in the water that has fins or scales, whether in seas or in rivers, these you may eat. But everything in the seas and rivers without both fins and scales, of all the small water creatures and of all the living creatures in the water, it is a detestable thing for you. Of creatures of the air, the following creatures of the air are to be detestable for you. They are not to be eaten. They are a detestable thing. The eagle, the vulture, osprey, the kite, the buzzards, ravens, great owl, pelican, barn owl, the stork, on and on. All winged, swarming creatures that go on all fours are a detestable thing for you also. Except that of all winged, swarming creatures that go on all fours, you may eat those that have jointed legs above their feet, enabling them to jump off the ground. Specifically, you may eat the various kinds of locusts, grasshoppers, katydids, and crickets. But other than that, all wings, nothing. Whatever goes on its paws, among all animals that go on all fours, are unclean for you. And among the small creatures that swarm on the ground, the weasel, the mouse, various kind of lizards, gecko, crocodile, skink, sand lizard, chameleon, they are unclean, crawling creatures. And for I am, so before we read this, let's go over here. Let's see. Interesting. Here we go. Codex. This is what I want to. Whoops. Let me. Nope. That way. That way. I want to get into this right here. This part. For I am Yahweh, therefore consecrate yourselves and be Kodesh. For I am Kodesh, and do not defile yourselves with any kind of swarming creature that moves along the ground. For I am Yahweh, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt to be Elohishka. Therefore you are to be Kodesh, because I am Kodesh. Such then is the law concerning animals, flying creatures, all living creatures that move about the water, and all creatures that swarm on the ground. Its purpose is to distinguish between the unclean and the clean, and between the creatures that may be eaten and those that may not be eaten. Now, what's interesting about that word, I just noticed the other night, Kodesh, is that a while back in 2014, I came across this video where a lady was talking about, a doctor was talking about Codex. Isn't that similar? Codex to Kodesh, which Codex Alimentarius. Let me scroll down. This was a lady's video right here. Let's see. Her name is Dr. Rima Labo. Dr. Rima Labo. Scroll down a little more.
Let me help you understand the enemy. And let me assure you that absolutely nothing that I'm going to
briefly, what this was about, if you want to watch her video, it was very interesting, is she basically says that, you know, this is how far these people plan ahead. In 1962, an ex-Nazi planned the world trade and implemented, and they had planned out a world trade and wanted it implemented globally by December of 2009. I mean, that's pretty far ahead planning. Basically, they set up committees on all foods except drugs, because they're all about big pharma. Groups came up with like 4,000 guidelines on foods, and it was copied after Codex in 1893, which was used in Austria. So the German Nazis said, hey, we can just do it again. It's run by the UN, WTO, World Trade Organization accepted it in 1994. Because they, you know, basically they just said, hey, we control the world's food supply, we rule the world. And they came up with these rules. If two countries, if one is Codex compliant and the other country isn't, then in a court, the Codex country wins automatically, no matter whether they hear the case or not. It only cares to protect big pharma, big med, etc. Where they want to do away with high potency nutrients are illegal. Codex also implemented and allowed 7 previously banned pesticides to be reused. As global implementation would result in 3 billion deaths. 1 billion via starvation, 2 billion via die from the preventable diseases of where they could normally have been prevented by, natural therapies. Undernutrition, mandated toxic, and then they make it illegal to ship high-density nutritional biscuits to a country during a famine. Wow. I mean, give it up for the World Trade Organization.
And so they created.
But that was pretty. That was just a little side note there. Now we go on to proof 5. We're going to get into, okay, here we go. This is a, turn this, proof 5. So, let's slip over here. Here I am. This is to a nation not called by my name. I spread out my hands all day long to a rebellious people who live in a way that is not good, who follow their own inclinations. A people who provoke me. People who provoke me to my face all the time, sacrificing, and this is interesting, look at this, sacrificing in gardens and burning incense on bricks. They sit among the graves and spend the night in caverns. They eat pig meat in their pots hold soup made from disgusting things. Maybe that lady, God, I wish I could remember her name. She was on there for brewing up, blood and all kind of excrement in her. It's disgusting. It's almost like he's reading ahead of time there. We go on to proof 8. Yahweh will judge all humanity with fire and with the sword, and those slain by Yahweh will be many. Those who consecrate and purify themselves in order to enter the gardens and follow the one who was already there, eating pig meat, reptiles, and rats, will all be destroyed together, says Yahweh. So, I don't know, if you think it's okay, to eat pig meat, you might want to reconsider that. So now we're going to get on to the science, how science backs up what I just said. Let's start by going over here to this is an interesting video I found about catfish in India. Wild film. Dirty bottom feeding, trash eating catfish. Yet Basa sells like hotcakes in Indian restaurants. Let's X out of that. So the bottom feeders of the waters, such as the shrimp or sea roaches, are not only unclean, but unhealthy and even deadly in some cases. The shellfish have concentrations of impurities and toxins that are in the water. A co-worker of my dad's at Lockheed, he writes, who was from coastal North Carolina, once told him about the tragic deaths of a number of people and the severe illnesses of dozens more, including himself, who participated in a local raw oyster eating fest. The scaleless fish and all shellfish, including the oyster, clam, lobster, shrimp, modern science discovers to be but lumps of devitalized and disease-producing filth because of inadequate excretion. These are the scavengers, the garbage containers of the waters and seas. Scientists literally gauge the contaminant levels of our oceans, bays, rivers, and lakes by measuring the mercury and biological toxin levels in the flesh of crabs, clams, oysters, and lobsters. Another scavenger is very popular in the Catholic, Protestant, Christian diet is the swine. I ask you, why is ham the meat of choice for the Christian Easter meal but lamb is the meat of choice for the Seder meal that Yeshua partook of with his followers just before his death. Doesn't the swine always represent evil and the lamb represents good in the Bible? Yeshua is referred to as Elohim's lamb by Yochanan and the immerser in Yochanan 1:29. The demons fled into a herd of pigs, not a flock of sheep, in Matthew chapter 8. Yeah, the Christian church, let me skip this ad. The Christian church, they claim it's okay. Oh, it's okay to eat pork meat. It's okay to not worship the Sabbath, which is actually Saturday and not Sunday. Oh, just forget about the Old Testament. We'll just discard the Old Testament. Oh no, it only houses, the 10 Commandments. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to cut it. In my opinion, the pig is a perfect representative or mascot of the Christian religion. Some ask, why did Yahweh make the unclean animals? They were created as scavengers. As a rule, they are meat-eating or carrion animals that clean up anything that is left dead in the fields. But scavengers were never intended for human consumption. The flesh of the swine is said by many authorities to be the prime cause of much of our American ill health, causing blood diseases, weakness of the stomach, liver troubles, tumors, cancer, etc. The pig's single stomach arrangement is very simple in design and function. It's combined with a limited excretory organ system. 4 hours after the pig has eaten his polluted swill and other putrid, offensive matter, man may eat the same swill second-handed off the ribs of the pig. Did anything biologically happen to the swine since Bible times? No. The scavenger creatures on land, in water, and in the air that Yahweh forbids man to eat are essentially flesh and waste product eaters. The flesh can be of animal, fish, or fowl, and can be freshly killed, raw, or cooked, rotten and purified carrion, or even fecal matter. A pig will literally eat anything, including their own feces or vomit, their own young, sick and dead pigs in the pen, and even human flesh. I know I heard of somewhere about killer somewhere that had a pig farm. I guess he threw the dead bodies to clean up the evidence. Much of the wisdom in the divine design for meats was confirmed. Now this is the interesting part about the scientist. Was confirmed in 1953 in a study in which Dr. David Macht, M-A-C-H-T, of Johns Hopkins University, reported the toxic effects of animal flesh on a controlled growth culture. A substance was classified as toxic if it showed the culture's growth rate below 75%. The table below is based on Dr. Macht's study. His results show that the lower the growth percentage of the culture, the more toxic the flesh. So in other words, if you have like a 90%, then that means it's safe to eat. A 20% means it's bad. Note that the flesh of animals and fish given to us by Elohim for food are all non-toxic, but all forbidden animals lie in the toxic range. And don't get confused. Any number above 75% is non-toxic or clean. The differences between clean and unclean animals appear to be related to their primary food source and to their digestive systems. And here is the chart that my dad put in his book. You've got here hoofed, chewing their cud, calf, deer, goat, ox, 80, 90%. Unclean, bear, camel, cat, coney, dog, fox, bear, grizzly, groundhog, hamster, horse 39%, opossum 53%, rabbit 49%, rat 55%. So in other words, it's worse to eat a horse than a rat. Although, Congress was voting recently on, it was okay to slaughter horses for food, how they enjoy that delicacy in Europe. Yeah, they enjoy their ill health too. Fish, clean, bass, drum carp, channel bass, unclean, catfish, clams, crabs, eel, lobster. There's a whole list to eat from on this side of clean foods. Unclean, puffer, sand skate, scallop, shark, shrimp, squid, stingray, toadfish. And then on this other last chart, clean, nothing of the air, unclean, all these, sparrow, hawk, asper, ostrich, kite. And lastly, insects, nothing there except cricket, grasshopper, and locust. Whoops. Getting back to this last part here. So, scavengers that eat anything and everything are unclean, not suitable for food, according to the Bible. Animals described as clean are therefore good for food, primarily eat grasses and grains. Note that an animal doesn't have to be a scavenger to be unclean. Horses, rabbits, for example, are unclean because they do not have split hooves. Although they are considered good food in some countries, studies show that horse meat often contains viruses and parasites. Rabbits, as innocent as they appear, are the cause of tularemia, an infectious disease in humans. And see, if we go over here, I gotta escape out of this. If we go over here to look at these schematics, whoops, what is, here we go. Cows eat grass. They don't eat a lot. And don't get a lot of nutrients. They need to ferment the grass in multiple levels of their stomachs to get the most of it. You go here, we've got a schematic of there's 4 chambers of this pig that they go through to break all that down. And I believe it takes, 20, Dr. Dockers says here in his article that for a cow, it takes 24 hours for the food to get digested versus 4 hours for a pig. And here there are a number of differences, mostly due to the different diets between pigs and cattle. Cattle are 4 gut fermenters that eat a primarily grass-fed diet. Their stomachs has developed into 4 separate chambers, and they have a well-developed cecum as well as a relatively large intestine. Pigs do not have internal fermentation as they eat an omnivorous diet of both plants and insects. Their digestive tract is very similar to humans. So, one reason Elohim is forbidding pork is that the digestive system of a pig is completely different from that of a cow. It is similar to ours in that the stomach is very acidic. Pigs are gluttonous, never knowing when to stop. Excuse me, let me go back over here. They never know when to stop eating. And so, as you can see in this video, and their stomach acids become diluted because of the volume of food, allowing all kinds of vermin to pass through this protective barrier. Parasites, bacteria, viruses, and toxins can pass into the pig's flesh. Now, I don't mean to talk about the Chinese, but my husband even saw, they pretty much eat anything they want over there, just anything and everything. My husband saw a documentary of a Chinese just eating a live squirrel's intestines. I mean, in the United States, 3 of the 6 most common foodborne parasitic diseases of humans are associated with pork consumption. These include toxoplasmosis, tanniasis, or cysticercosis caused by the pork tapeworm, Tania, psyllium, and trichonellosis. I don't know if I'm saying that right. For some of these people that think, oh, it's okay to eat pork, I heard somebody on their channel saying that. No. Everything in the Bible is pretty much right. Turn out to be accurate. In Japan, the source of these infections was traced to the flesh of pigs, bears, horses, raccoons, and foxes. All of these animals are listed in Scripture as putrid or unclean. Swine are also good incubators of toxic parasites and viruses, although the animal doesn't appear to be ill while carrying these diseases. A scientist at the University of Giesen's Institute for Virology in Germany showed in a study of worldwide influenza epidemics that pigs are the one animal that can serve as a mixing vessel for new influenza viruses and may be seriously threaten the world health. If a pig is exposed to a human's DNA virus and then a bird's virus, the pig mixes the two viruses, developing new DNA viruses, often extremely lethal for humans. These viruses have already caused worldwide epidemics.